What is going on, everybody? My name's Chris. Welcome to Bourbinsane. We're back today and we're going to be talking about a pretty interesting bourbon. Now, this is a bourbon a lot of people search after really hard, look for it all the time, can't find it. If they do, it's extremely expensive, hard to get. We're going to be talking about Weller 12. Now, I have some opinions on Weller 12, some good, some bad, and we'll talk about those, but in general, Weller 12 is an extremely sought-after product by a lot of people. Now, for those of you that don't know, this is a part of the Buffalo Trace line, and this bourbon eventually, in the good barrels at least, will become Pappy Van Winkle. So Weller 12 is a wheated bourbon from Buffalo Trace. In the Weller line, they make a Weller Special Reserve, a old Weller Antique 107, and then the Weller 12 year, which is the oldest expression of the Weller line. As I mentioned, these will move up to become things like Old Rip Van Winkle 10, Pappy Van Winkle, the 15, 20, 23 year. So this is, predecessor to some of those really, really good, I shouldn't say good, but sought after products, the unicorns people search out a lot of times. So a very hyped up bourbon, and let's get right into it and talk about it a little bit. As you can see, I got a massive bottle here. I got this when I first started getting into bourbon, and luckily I didn't pay what this would be about probably $300 now, secondary prices, if I was to get this bottle. Thank God I didn't pay that much. As you can see, there's a scratch on the label here that saved me about $50 on this bottle, so I'm going to drink it so I don't care. Looking at color, it's a nice medium color, not too dark, not too light. Good looking color though. This is only 90 proof. Shouldn't say only 90 proof, it's 90 proof, which is the same as the Weller Special Reserve. So the Antique 107 is of course 107 proof, but let's go right into the nose here. Sweet oak for sure comes through on this immediately. When I think wheated bourbon, this is kind of what comes to mind to me. It's got all the wheated profile notes. I get some cinnamon in there. Again, very, very nice, sweet oak. Sweet oak. With the Special Reserve and with the 107, I always get kind of that baked bread note as well. Like almost like a doughy note. I think that's part of that wheated profile for me. I get that a lot of times with other wheated expressions I've had. Not Maker's Mark, but I'm not a Maker's Mark guy. I think that's an off-profile wheater. It smells really nice. Still classic bourbon notes. Buffalo Trace does not disclose mash bill. I should have mentioned this before. So we don't know, the percentages of what's what. We know it's a bourbon, so it's 51% corn. Wheat is most likely the second most dominant grain in this, and then most likely barley after that. So let's give it a sip. Cheers. So it's good. It's a good bourbon. It is not prices people are willing to pay for this bottle good. Before I even say a tasting note, it's just not. There's so many other bourbons I would even take over this. I mean, it's a solid pour. Nice sweetness, not much of a finish. Finish is already gone. Let me go in for a second sip. Sometimes it's better to get a couple sips in before you give tasting notes. All right. So some candied fruit in here. Cinnamon still prevalent on the palate. The caramel and vanilla both are there. The caramel is almost like a Werther's caramel on my tongue. I think that goes more along with that wheated profile. Kind of gives you a little more of a creaminess. In general, I seem to get that a lot of times. More of a creaminess. It's almost got kind of a sharp, kind of like a bitter aftertaste to me for some reason. Almost like a bitter taste on the back of my tongue. I don't know if anyone else gets that. I say all the time, I really do prefer the Weller 107 to the Weller 12 year. I think the amplified proof just kind of amplifies those flavors for me. So being 107 versus 90 proof does make a big difference, in my opinion. Again, it's good. It's a solid product, but man, man, the prices people will pay for this bottle. Yeah. It's not really a dark fruit at all in this. If anything, it's going to be more the brighter fruits. So kind of like a very subtle peach and pear, I would say, are more the fruits that come through on this. Very subtle. It's really more of that creaminess I feel on the palate. But the finish, to me, is very lacking on this. Again, I'm getting that bitter note. I have had Old Rip 10 on multiple occasions. And I have not had any of the older Pappy expressions, so I can't speak to the similarity between the older Pappies and this. I do know the Old Rip 10, I think, is substantially better and more well-rounded than the Weller 12 year. Now, a lot of people use Weller 12 not even for itself, just to make Poor Man's Pappy. And for those of you that don't know, Poor Man's Pappy is usually a combination of Weller 12 year and Weller Antique 107. And you blend it in whatever ratio you think is correct to get to Pappy Van Winkle. That's why they call it Poor Man's Pappy. These days you have to be a rich man to get both those things and make your own Pappy pretty much. Because the prices on these bottles, both of them, are hard to find if you can't get them locally. So, in my opinion, if you can find this bottle at retail, it's going to run you probably about $40 to $50. Recently, there have been some price increases on Weller products, so that price may be going up. But secondary now, even on a 750 ml bottle, is about $200. Now, the secondary market no longer really exists. If you know someone who would be willing to get you a bottle, it's going to run you higher prices, very high prices, about that $200. For $40, it's worth a gamble. $60, I wouldn't even really go to $60 for this bottle myself. It's good, as I mentioned, but $60 price range, we're talking Old Forester 1920, we're talking Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, we're talking Stagg Jr. I would take any of those any day over this. I would, just plain and simple. It's okay, it's good. I just don't understand why it's so hyped up. Everyone's all over it all the time. It's got the Weller name on it, it's the oldest expression, I guess that's why. And it's the predecessor to Pappy, but the way it works with Buffalo Trace, and I heard this at a tour when I was on a tour there, is Weller does not become Pappy. Like these Wellers won't be blended together to get your Pappy Van Winkle. They try a product, and if they say, this is good, but it's not good enough to where it's going to become a Pappy barrel, then they'll use that for Weller. And the same with the Weller 12s. So this could have become, Old Rip 10, but it wasn't good enough to make the Old Rip 10 label, so they made that a Weller 12. I trust the master tasters at Buffalo Trace. They really haven't steered me wrong on too many of their products yet. so I trust them more than I trust myself and my own palate and nose. So if you can get Weller 12 at a good price, definitely get it. Definitely try it at the bar. If not, hold off. Get yourself something else you like at that $60 price range. It's going to be well worth it. Thank you all so much for watching this review today. If you like these types of videos, please do hit that like button and that subscribe button. I also did just start a brand new series talking about Kentucky Bourbon Trail distilleries. If you haven't seen that yet, please do go check out episode 1. I'm going to be putting out more of those coming up. Buffalo Trace is a place I visited, so if you haven't been to Buffalo Trace Distillery or you just want some more information about it, definitely keep an eye out for that coming up soon. But I appreciate you guys all watching this episode today, watching this review. Let me know your thoughts on the Weller line. Do you like Weller 12 more than the 107? Have you tried Weller 12? Can you find Weller 12? Because it's damn near impossible. Thank you all so much for watching the review today. Stay insane.